My stepmother's voice cut through the ocean breeze like a knife. 3 weeks? 20 relatives. Stock the fridge and prepare the villa. She spoke as if I were her maid, as if the seaside home I had built from nothing belonged to her. I smiled into the phone, steady and cold, because Linda had no idea. This time, I wasn't the powerless girl she once erased. Before I tell you what happened that night, drop a comment and let me know, have you ever had family? Treat your hard-earned success like it was theirs. And if you've ever felt invisible but kept fighting anyway, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, because what happened next at my villa shocked everyone watching. It wasn't always about villas and ocean views. Long before the marble floors and infinity pools, my world was a small weathered house in a coastal town where salt clung to the windows and the nights were filled with the sound of crashing waves. From the outside, it might have looked like a simple, loving family. My mom humming in the kitchen, stirring soup with one hand while tucking a strand of hair behind her ear with the other. My dad sitting at the table with the newspaper pretending to read, but really just waiting for her to smile at him. And me, curled up on the floor with crayons trying to capture our family on paper as if a drawing could keep us together forever. But that illusion ended when I was 8. The day it rained so hard, the gutters overflowed, the day my mom never came back from the grocery store. I can still hear the storm's echo against the hospital's windows when the doctor told us she was gone. I remember clutching my father's sleeve, my tears soaking into his coat, while he whispered a promise I wanted to believe. I'll take care of you, Sophia. Always, but promises are fragile. They break easily in the wrong hands. Only months later, Linda walked into our lives. She was polished, confident, and smelled like expensive perfume that lingered long after she left a room. At first, I tried to hope. Maybe she would bring warmth back into the house. Maybe she would see me. She even pretended at the beginning, buying me a dress, asking me about school. But when Dad wasn't looking, her smile curdled into something sharp. Shoes left by the door, messy. Speaking during dinner, children shouldn't interrupt adults. She never shouted, but each word chipped away at me until I began to feel like I was shrinking. Then came Chloe, her daughter, my half-sister. Linda's golden child, the little angel who could do no wrong. Every birthday, Chloe's name filled the house with laughter balloons and gifts stacked higher than the cake. On my birthdays, Linda's shrug. You're too old for parties. My father didn't protest. He never did. I learned early what it meant to be invisible, to eat cold cereal while Chloe was served warm milk and buttered toast. Still, silence doesn't mean surrender. Every slight, every dismissal planted something inside me, a stubborn seed. At night, I whispered to myself in the dark, "Be strong, Sophia. One day, you'll leave this house. One day, you'll prove them wrong." By 15, I realized no one was coming to save me. So, I saved myself. My first job was bussing tables at the Harbor Grill, a diner that smelled of grease and salt water. The owner was rough around the edges, but kind. When I burned my palm on a hot plate, Linda would have mocked me. He just handed me a towel and said, "Shake it off. You'll get better." And I did. Every dollar I earned went into a shoebox under my bed, my secret treasure, my ticket out. Linda noticed, of course. She always did. "Where are you sneaking off to every night?" she demanded, her eyes narrowed. At work, I answered, my chin lifted even though my hands trembled. She sneered. "Don't embarrass us. People will think we can't provide for you." My father barely looked up from his newspaper. "She's grown up, Linda." That was it. That was all the support he could muster. But I didn't need their approval. That shoebox of crumpled bills was mine, my freedom. I saved for school books, for a second-hand bike that carried me to late shifts and back, for the clothes I knew I'd need when I finally escaped. And every time the salty wind hit my face as I pedaled home, I repeated the mantra that kept me alive. This is just the beginning. It wasn't always about villas and ocean views. Long before marble counters and infinity pools, my world was a tiny weathered house that smelled of salt-damp wood and my mother's cooking. From the outside, it seemed normal: a father in his chair, a mother stirring soup, a child drawing crooked hearts on scrap paper. For a while, I believed we were whole. Then the rain came. I was 8 years old the day the storm swallowed her. Sheets of water pounded against the hospital windows while I clutched my father's sleeve, begging him to tell me it wasn't true. But the doctor's words, clinical final, cut through me. She was gone. I buried my face in Dad's coat, my tears soaking the fabric. His whisper came thin and trembling. "I'll take care of you, Sophia. I promise." But promises are fragile. His shattered before the year was out. Linda appeared first as a smile. Blonde hair, perfectly curled perfume so sharp it clung to every surface. She worked in real estate and she knew how to sell herself. My father, raw and broken, let himself be sold. Within months, her suitcases lined our hallway. Within 8 months, vows were exchanged. My mother's photo, once in the center of the mantel, was shifted to the corner, and with it, I felt myself pushed aside. Linda was a master of appearances. When Dad watched, she cooed over me, asked about school, even bought me a frilly dress once. But when his back was turned, her smile cracked. "You're too messy, Sophia. Don't interrupt. Don't embarrass us." Every word chipped at me like a sculptor hacking stone. The girl who once sang while setting the table fell quiet. Then Chloe was born. My half-sister Linda's angel wrapped in pink blankets and promises. From the moment she opened her blue eyes, she was the crown jewel. My father hovered by her crib, whispering, "Daddy's little girl," as if I had never existed. Chloe's birthdays were explosions of balloons, cakes tiered higher than her head, and gifts wrapped in shining foil. On my birthdays, Linda declared too old for parties. A quiet dinner is enough. My father never argued. I blew out candles on store-bought cupcakes alone. Meals became the stage for my invisibility. Chloe's plate held buttered toast and strawberry jam, a glass of warm milk set before her. Mine was cereal poured from the box, eaten in silence. If I asked Dad a question, Linda's glare sliced through me. Children shouldn't interrupt adults. Slowly, I stopped asking. I stopped speaking. But silence doesn't equal weakness. Each slight planted something stubborn inside me. In the dark of my room, I whispered to myself, "Be strong, Sophia. One day you'll escape this house. One day you'll prove them wrong." By 15, I understood. No one was coming to save me. So I saved myself. My first job was bussing tables at the Harbor Grill, a diner that smelled of grease and ocean. The owner, Mr. Harris, frowned at me when I asked for work. "You're young, kid. Can you handle it?" "I can," I said, though. My hands shook. That night, I spilled water, burned my palm on a plate. Linda would have laughed. Mr. Harris handed me a towel. "Shake it off. You'll get better." For the first time in years, I felt seen. The pay was $60 a week, sometimes less, but those wrinkled bills were treasure. I hid them in a shoebox under my bed, counting them by moonlight like jewels. Every dollar meant one step closer to freedom. Linda noticed, of course. She always did. "Where do you disappear every evening?" she demanded one night, her eyes sharp as knives. At work, I answered, my chin lifted. Her lips curled. "Don't humiliate us. People will think we can't provide for you," Dad muttered without looking up. "She's grown up, Linda," before disappearing behind his newspaper again. That was the extent of his defense. But I didn't need their permission. My shoebox grew heavier. With it, my backbone did too. I bought school books they wouldn't buy, clothes they refused to provide, a second-hand bike that rattled with every pedal stroke but carried me to and from the diner. Riding home under the salty wind, sweat sticking to my back, I whispered, "This is just the beginning." I taught myself to cook, spaghetti with canned sauce, soups from bruised vegetables, scrambled eggs with too much salt. Chloe never touched a dish, but Linda praised her endlessly. "She's so talented she'd gush after Chloe plinked out a piano tune." When I showed her straight A's, she barely glanced. Expected. Don't brag. The dismissal stung, but it hardened me. At school, I became invisible there too, but on my own terms. While classmates giggled over prom dresses and whispered about crushes, I stayed buried in textbooks calculating tuition costs instead of dates. When my stomach growled at night because I had saved leftovers for Chloe, I pressed my palms against it and whispered, "Endure. One day, you'll never go hungry again." By the time high school ended, my shoebox had been emptied and filled again countless times. I scraped together enough for application fees. No thanks to Dad, no help from Linda. Just late-night shifts tutoring kids and the endless cycle of survival. When the acceptance letter arrived from a state university with a partial scholarship, I sat on my bed trembling. I had done it. Me, the invisible girl. I cried not from fear, but from pride. Linda's response a scoff. University waste of time. You'll end up in a cubicle anyway. Dad didn't argue, didn't even smile, just a distracted good. Handle it yourself. So I did. I packed my few belongings, tucked the envelope of savings into my bag, and moved into a cramped dorm that smelled of instant noodles and laundry detergent. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't easy. But it was mine. For the first time, I wasn't living in Linda's shadow. And though my path ahead was paved with exhaustion, I had carved the first stone with my own hands, and I swore I'd never be invisible again. College wasn't freedom in the way I dreamed. It was survival, but at least it was survival on my own terms. My dorm was a shoebox stuffed with 3 roommates, squeaky bunk beds, and a bathroom that reeked of mildew. Meals meant instant noodles or the cheapest cafeteria food I could afford. But every time I slid my student ID to enter class, I reminded myself you made it here without them. Life became a relentless cycle. Morning lectures bled into afternoon labs. Nights I brewed coffee in the student cafe or shelved books in the library. Weekends I rang up groceries. My hands cracked from handling too many paper bags. My body ached. My eyelids drooped. Sometimes I fainted asleep at my desk, waking with drool on open textbooks. But I didn't complain. I couldn't. This was the price of freedom. Calls from home were rare, and when they came, they hurt more than silence. Dad's voice would start neutral, almost kind. "How's school?" I'd answer honestly. "It's hard, but I'm managing." Then Linda's voice would cut in sharp and dismissive. "Don't come begging for money. We're not your bank." I'd hang up, forehead pressed to the desk, my eyes burning with unshed tears. That little girl inside me still wanted a father who would fight for her, but she was gone, replaced by the woman learning that even blood could run cold. 4 years passed like that. By graduation, my body was thinner, my hands calloused, but my heart was harder. Standing in my cap and gown beneath the blistering summer sun, I clutched my finance degree with trembling hands. Around me, classmates were smothered in hugs, cameras flashing flowers pressed into their arms. I stood alone. No Dad in the crowd, no Linda with a proud smile. Just me whispering to myself, "You carried yourself across the finish line." The job hunt that followed nearly broke me. Hundreds of resumes sent out, most answered with silence. Each rejection email was a blade cutting deeper into my already frayed resolve. "We regret to inform you" became a phrase I dreaded but braced for. Still, I kept going, because giving up meant proving Linda right. Finally, a small wealth management firm took a chance. Walking into that glass-walled office on my first day, I felt the weight of every empty birthday, every cold meal, every insult. I wasn't just working for money. I was working to prove my existence mattered. The first year was brutal. I was the rookie, the nobody. Cold calls, endless spreadsheets, cleaning up mistakes no one else wanted. Nights stretched into dawn as I stared at glowing monitors, my eyes burning my chest tight with exhaustion. Many times I whispered, "I can't keep this up." But then I remembered Linda's smirk, Dad's indifference, and the words fueled me, proved them wrong. That was when Daniel walked in, not as a savior, but as someone who saw me. He was a client, an entrepreneur with tired eyes and a restless smile. Our meetings began with business, but drifted into conversations about grit failure and hunger. "You sound like someone who's fought for everything," he said, once leaning back in his chair. I hesitated, then nodded. "You could say that." Months passed. Coffee meetings turned into late-night phone calls. Chinese takeout on a park bench turned into a proposal during a rainy night on his balcony. He didn't promise to rescue me, he promised to walk beside me. For once, that was enough. When our daughter Emma was born, I made a vow as I cradled her tiny fingers. "You will never feel invisible." You will always know you are loved. It was a vow no one had made to me, and keeping it became my life's anchor. But even as I built this new life, the past kept tugging. My success didn't go unnoticed. Word reached Linda and my father that I wasn't the powerless girl anymore, that I had money, a husband, a home. They started calling more often, their voices laced with false sweetness. At first, I ignored them, until one call shattered my restraint. It was a crisp autumn morning. I was sipping coffee on the balcony of our apartment when the phone rang. Linda's number flashed across the screen. Against my better judgment, I answered. Her voice was imperious like always. "We'll be staying at your villa for 3 weeks. 20 relatives are coming. Prepare the rooms, stock the fridge, cook for everyone." For a moment, the mug trembled in my hands. The arrogance was staggering. She wasn't asking, she was commanding, as if I were still the girl hiding coins in a shoebox, as if the villa bought with my sweat and years of sacrifice was hers to claim. The breaking point wasn't her demand. It was the calm that followed in me. The realization that I didn't need to argue, to plead, to hope. I could simply say no. And yet I didn't hang up. I smiled into the phone, my voice steady, cold. "Of course, Linda. Come. The villa is waiting." Because this time I wasn't the powerless child. This time I had a plan. The moment I hung up on Linda's demand, I sat very still on the balcony, the ocean stretching endlessly before me. Waves slammed against the rocks below each crash, reminding me of the storm inside my chest. For years I had reacted with silence, endured, bent myself smaller to fit into their shadows, but now I owned the light. I owned the villa, and they were about to learn what it meant to underestimate the invisible daughter. I didn't rant, I didn't scream, I didn't even tell Daniel everything at first. Instead, I walked through the villa slowly, my bare feet touching the cold marble floors, my fingertips trailing across the polished counters. Every corner of this house was mine. Every brick had been earned by nights of exhaustion and days of grinding determination. It was not theirs to claim. That night, while Daniel read Emma a bedtime story, I sat at my desk and pulled out the villa's deed. My name in bold letters stared back at me, Sophia Carter, the same girl Linda had called useless, messy, invisible. I smiled, a cold, steady smile. My first call was to Tom, the resort manager who oversaw rental bookings for the villa. Tom was the kind of man who had seen every kind of guest, from entitled billionaires to honeymooners fighting over champagne. When I explained the situation, his chuckle held no surprise. "I've seen freeloaders before, Sophia," he said, his voice calm but edged. "But family like this, that's another level. Don't worry, we'll play this smart." Together we devised a plan. Instead of confronting Linda directly, we'd let her arrogance hang itself. Every booking, every stay would be documented. Every service they demanded would be recorded as a formal charge. Housekeeping, catering, pool service, even the cases of wine Linda insisted on. On paper, they wouldn't look like freeloaders. They would look like clients' very expensive ones. But money wasn't the only part of my plan. Humiliation would do the rest. Because Linda's power had always thrived in whispers behind closed doors, in a father's silence that made me invisible. I was done being silent. If the confrontation came, it would be public, where every mask would crack under the weight of truth. I spent the following days in quiet preparation. The fridge was stocked, the beds made, the wine ordered, all under the resort's accounts, not mine. Each receipt carefully filed under their names. At night, when the house was empty, I'd walk through the villa, the echoes of my footsteps mingling with old ghosts. The little girl who once whispered, "Be strong," was no longer whispering. She was standing tall. Daniel noticed the change in me. "You're too calm," he said one evening, his arm brushing mine as we sat on the porch. "Usually their calls leave you shaking." I sipped my wine, staring at the horizon where the sun melted into the ocean. "Because this time I'm not their prey. This time I'm the one setting the table." He studied me for a long moment, then nodded. "Then I'll trust you." Emma, too young to understand, became my symbol of why this mattered. Watching her run barefoot across the villa's garden, chasing butterflies, I swore she would never know the feeling of being erased. She would grow up knowing her mother's voice mattered. Her presence was undeniable. This wasn't just revenge, it was breaking a cycle. The first sign of their arrival came sooner than expected. My phone buzzed with a text from Dad. "We're here early. Chloe wanted to swim." Attached was a blurry photo of their car parked at the villa gate's, suitcases piled in the trunk. No warning, no permission. Just entitlement. I didn't rush. I watched from the villa's security cameras as they spilled out, Linda in oversized sunglasses barking orders, Dad carrying bags like a servant, Chloe posing for photos with her fiancé Ryan, her laughter echoing across my property as if it were her birthright. They lounged by the pool music, blaring, wine glasses clinking. Linda even recorded a video, her voice loud and proud. "Our villa, Chloe's future home. Isn't it magnificent?" My blood boiled, but my lips curled into a smile. Let her lie. Let her boast. Because every second was being recorded, documented, stored. Days passed. They ransacked the fridge, left wine bottles rolling on the porch, cigarette butts in the garden. Linda called me once during their stay, not to thank me, but to complain. The seafood wasn't fresh enough. "Next time, get lobster straight from the docks. Don't embarrass us." I bit back a laugh. "Of course, Linda," I said sweetly, my voice dripping with false submission. "I'll make a note of that." Behind the phone, my heart was steady, because this wasn't anger anymore. This was strategy. The night before their departure, I walked into the villa lobby where Tom was waiting. The marble floors gleamed, tourists bustled around with suitcases, children tugged at their parents' hands. Perfect. Witnesses. Tom handed me the prepared invoice folder, crisp and undeniable. "All set," he said quietly. "You sure about this?" I met his eyes. "Absolutely." When I stepped back into the salty evening air, Daniel slipped his hand into mine. "Tomorrow," he murmured, "everything changes." And for the first time in my life, I believed him. Because tomorrow wasn't just about a bill. It was about finally forcing Linda and everyone who had erased me to face the one truth they could never deny. That I existed, that I owned this life, and that they were nothing more than guests. The morning after their holiday, the villa lobby became a stage. Linda's heels clicked furiously across the marble, Dad trailed behind, carrying Chloe's designer bags, and the relatives shuffled like sheep. When Tom calmly slid the invoice across the counter, $19, $250 for 21 nights. Silence cracked the air. Linda's shriek echoed through the lobby. "Invoice, are you insane? This is our villa." Gasps from strangers rippled like waves. Ryan's parents stiffened their polite masks, faltering. My father grabbed the paper, his hands trembling, muttering about mistakes while sweat dripped down his temple. That was when I stepped forward with Daniel and little Emma, who clung to my hand. My voice was clear, cutting through the chaos. "No mistake. This is my villa. Guests pay for their stay." The words detonated like fireworks. Linda's face purpled. Chloe gaped, her fiancé pulling away as whispers spread among the crowd. So it wasn't theirs? Ryan's mother's lips curled in disgust. What happened in that lobby was public humiliation. But the war didn't end there, it only shifted battlegrounds. That evening, my phone lit up with furious messages. From Linda, ungrateful brat. "You humiliated us in front of everyone. After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay family. From Dad, Sophia, you've torn this family apart. I raised you, fed you, and you shame me. Call me back now." From Chloe, her words dripping with venom. "You just ruined my engagement. Ryan's parents think we're liars because of you. Do you enjoy destroying me? You'll pay for this." I sat at the villa's long dining table, scrolling through their fury while the waves crashed against the cliffs outside. My phone buzzed, non-stop calls, texts, voicemails. Accusations came in waves. I was selfish, cold, cruel. Linda told relatives I had tricked them, forged documents, even stolen money from Dad to buy the villa. The smear campaign was quick, vicious, and designed to flip the story. But I didn't flinch. Daniel leaned over, pressing a kiss to my temple. "Ignore them," he said softly. "Their power only works if you let it back in." Still, part of me felt the old guilt rising, the voice of that little girl who still wanted to believe her father's love was possible. I listened once to a voicemail, Dad's voice breaking, "You're not my daughter anymore. You've destroyed your own bloodline." The words hit hard. For a second, I curled into myself, my chest tight. But then Emma's laughter floated from the garden, pure and unburdened. I walked outside, watched her spin barefoot in the grass, and whispered to myself, "This is my family now. This is what matters." The power struggle wasn't just through words. Linda escalated. She called my workplace pretending to be a client, trying to stir doubt about my professionalism. She sent letters to neighbors claiming I was unstable and ungrateful. Chloe went on social media posting veiled jabs. Some people forget who gave them life, who raised them. Money doesn't buy class. Relatives I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly flooded my inbox with guilt-laden messages. "Family is everything." "How could you do this to your father?" I answered none of them. Instead, I saved every voicemail, every text, every post. Screenshots stacked like ammunition. I wasn't reacting. I was recording. At night, I sat on the porch, the villa silent except for the ocean. I thought about how power had always worked in our family. Linda ruled through manipulation, Dad through silence, Chloe through entitlement, and me through endurance. But endurance wasn't enough anymore. Now I wielded truth, documentation, proof. The tension peaked when Dad showed up at my office. I was reviewing a client's portfolio when the receptionist's call buzzed in. "Sophia, there's a man here. Says he's your father. He won't leave." My stomach knotted, but I told her to send him in. He stormed through the glass doors, his face red, his tie askew. He slammed his hands on my desk. "How could you do this to me? To us? Linda says you're poisoning Chloe's future, spreading lies. Do you want me dead from shame?" I folded my hands, kept my voice calm. "Dad, I didn't shame you. I just stopped letting you use me." His eyes widened as if I'd struck him. "We're your blood. That villa belongs to family." "No," I said, my tone firm, steady. "It belongs to the person who worked for it. Me. Not Linda. Not Chloe. Not you." For the first time, I saw it, the flicker of doubt in his eyes, the weight of years where he had chosen silence over me. But it vanished quickly, swallowed by pride. He spat on the floor of my office and stormed out. My coworkers stared through the glass walls, shocked. I straightened my blazer, lifted my chin, and went back to my client's file. Because that's the thing about power struggles. The winner isn't the loudest. It's the one who refuses to be moved. In the weeks that followed, the smear campaign collapsed under its own weight. Ryan's family spread the truth of the lobby incident, and whispers of Linda's lies grew louder than her voice. Chloe's engagement officially ended, and her friends stopped defending her. Neighbors who received Linda's letters laughed at the absurdity. Most already knew me well enough to ignore them. My phone grew quieter. The flood of calls dwindled to a trickle. And though Dad never apologized, his silence told me everything. Their power had broken against the one thing they couldn't touch: my independence. The girl who once whispered, "Be strong," had become the woman who stood unshaken. And Linda. She wasn't finished, but neither was I. The weeks of smear campaigns and furious calls had left me oddly calm, like the eye of a storm. They had tried everything, guilt, lies, manipulation, but nothing stuck. And then the inevitable happened. They pushed for one last confrontation, desperate to claw back the control slipping through their fingers. It began with a letter, hand-delivered to the villa by a courier. The handwriting was my father's, shaky but unmistakable. "Meet us at the old country club. One dinner, just family. Let's settle this." Daniel's brow furrowed when I showed him. "It's a trap. They'll try to corner you." I looked past him out to the sea where the horizon burned gold. Then let them. I'm not afraid of corners anymore. The evening of the dinner, I wore no armor except truth. A simple navy dress, Emma's small hand clasped in mine, Daniel at my side. As we pulled into the club's circular driveway, I felt the ghosts of the past pressing close. This was the same place Linda once threw Chloe's 16th birthday balloons, chandeliers, laughter. I'd been the forgotten shadow by the buffet table that night. Not anymore. The banquet hall was already buzzing when we entered. Relatives I hadn't seen in years gathered around white-draped tables. Chloe sat stiffly beside her ex-fiancé, Ryan, though he avoided her gaze. Ryan's parents were there too, their expressions stony. At the head of the room, Linda stood tall, pearls gleaming, her smile stretched too tight. My father hovered beside her, smaller somehow, as if her shadow had finally consumed him. The chatter dimmed when I walked in. I felt dozens of eyes turn assessing, waiting. Linda raised her glass, her voice smooth but laced with venom. Well, well, look who decided to join us. The prodigal daughter. A few relatives chuckled nervously. I didn't. I guided Emma to a chair beside Daniel and sat down, slowly, meeting Linda's gaze with unflinching calm. She wasted no time. You've shamed this family, Sophia. Humiliated us in front of strangers, destroyed Chloe's engagement. And all for what, to play queen in a house you bought with dirty money? Gasps fluttered across the room. My father nodded weakly beside her. She's right, Sophia. This is no way for a daughter to treat her blood. My blood boiled, but my voice stayed steady. Blood isn't family. You taught me that the day you erased me from birthdays, dinners, every memory that mattered. Murmurs rippled through the relatives. Chloe shot up from her chair, her eyes blazing. You've always been jealous. Sophia Mom gave me what you never deserved. Love, attention, a future. And now you're trying to take that from me too. Her words stung, but they also revealed everything. I stood slowly, my palms flat on the linen tablecloth. Jealous, no, Chloe. I pitied you, because you never saw that the love you brag about was just manipulation dressed as affection. You were groomed to be Linda's mirror, not her daughter. Ryan's mother leaned forward, her eyes sharp. Is that true, Chloe? Did your mother claim Sophia's villa as yours? The room held its breath. Chloe's face flushed crimson. Linda slammed her glass down, wine splattering across the table. Enough of this nonsense. She's poisoning all of you against us. That was my cue. I reached into my bag and pulled out a neat folder. I laid it on the table and opened it, page after page of receipts, invoices, and official documents. Tom, the resort manager, had prepared them carefully. Every line bore Linda's signature for catering, wine housekeeping, all billed under her stay. Dirty money, I said quietly, my voice slicing through the silence. This is what dirty looks like. Not my hard-earned career, not the villa I built. This, stealing, lying, pretending. Gasps erupted. Ryan's father leaned over, scanning the documents. His jaw tightened. So it's true. You let us believe this villa was yours. You made our son's engagement a farce. Ryan stood abruptly, his chair scraping. We're done, Chloe. His words cracked like thunder. Chloe burst into sobs, reaching for him, but he stepped away. Linda's mask shattered. She lunged across the table, her finger stabbing toward me. You ungrateful brat! After everything I gave you, I cut her off, my voice rising for the first time. What did you give me, Linda? Silence on my birthdays. Cold stares at the dinner table. Years of telling me I wasn't enough. You didn't raise me. You erased me. The hall fell silent. Even the waitstaff froze in place, their trays trembling. My father's face crumpled, his lips trembling. For a second, I saw a flicker of shame. But then, like always, he chose silence. He lowered his gaze, letting Linda's fury carry the room. I inhaled deeply, then straightened. I didn't come here to beg for recognition. I came to show you that your power over me is gone. I am not invisible anymore, and I will never, never let you steal from me again. The words hung heavy, echoing through the hall like a verdict. Linda sputtered, her fury breaking into fragments. You'll regret this, Sophia. You've destroyed your own family. I smiled faintly, the calm of a storm finally passing. No, Linda. Family was destroyed long ago by lies, favoritism, and cruelty. I'm simply refusing to carry the rubble anymore. The room was silent except for Chloe's muffled sobs. Relatives averted their eyes, shame flickering across their faces. Ryan's parents gathered their things, whispering apologies to me as they left. Slowly, one by one, others followed, leaving Linda and my father standing in the wreckage of their own making. Emma tugged at my sleeve, her innocent eyes wide. "Mommy, can we go home now?" I bent down, kissed her forehead, and whispered so only she could hear, "Yes, baby. Home." And for the first time, I felt the word home didn't mean a building. It meant freedom. It meant a family I built with love, not chains. As we walked out of the hall, Daniel's hand steady in mine, the echo of my words lingered in the air. I wasn't the powerless girl anymore. I was the woman who had faced them all and walked away free. The night of the confrontation lingered in my mind like a storm cloud slowly drifting away. For years, I had braced myself for that moment, the explosion, the accusations, the weight of their rage. But when it finally happened, something unexpected followed silence. Not the silence of neglect I had grown up with, but the silence of release. For days after the phone stayed quiet, no calls from Dad, no furious texts from Linda, no guilt-drenched pleas from Chloe. The absence of their voices felt strange at first, like stepping into a house you've lived in for years and realizing the furniture is gone. But then, the strangeness turned into peace. At the villa, the air seemed clearer. Emma's laughter carried farther across the pool. Daniel's shoulders, usually tense whenever my phone buzzed, began to relax. One evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, he wrapped an arm around me and whispered, "It's over, Sophia. They can't touch you anymore." I wanted to believe him. But part of me knew the past never vanishes entirely. It lingers in corners, in memories, in scars. The difference was, I no longer feared it. I walked through the villa one morning after Emma went to school, letting my fingers brush the cool stone walls. Every corner reminded me of something: the little girl who once counted coins in a shoebox, the teenager who ate cereal alone, the college student who skipped meals to pay for books. Each version of me lived in these walls, layered like paint. And now, finally, they were safe. The sea outside became my mirror. As a child, I sat on the sand watching Chloe build castles while I sat empty-handed. Now, I stood on the villa's porch, watching my daughter collect seashells with her tiny fingers. Emma's voice rang out clear and full of joy. "Mommy, look what I found." She held up a shell, the sunlight catching in its spiral. I knelt down, taking it gently. "It's beautiful," I told her. "Just like you." She grinned, her teeth small and imperfect, her innocence still untouched by cruelty. And in that moment I realized the cycle had been broken. She would never feel the cold bite of being invisible, not while I was alive. But healing isn't only about building new love. It's about reckoning with old wounds. A week after the confrontation, I found myself sitting with the cracked photo frame I'd once shoved to the back of a drawer, the only photo of my mother I had left. Her smile was soft, almost fragile, the kind of smile that lit up an entire room. I traced her face with my finger, whispering words I had never dared to say aloud. "I made it, Mom." I kept going, I kept fighting, and I wish you could see me now. The tears came quietly, but they didn't feel heavy this time. They felt cleansing. News trickled in through distant relatives. Chloe's engagement was officially over. Ryan's family cut ties completely, their reputation bruised by Linda's lies. My father, he shrank into the background, too humiliated to fight further, too proud to apologize. Linda. I heard raged behind closed doors, blaming everyone but herself. Their world crumbled, and for once I didn't feel pity. I felt free. One night, Daniel and I sat by the fire pit in the villa's garden, the flames painting the night orange. Emma was asleep upstairs, her small breaths audible through the baby monitor on the table. I leaned against Daniel's shoulder, staring at the endless stretch of stars. "Do you regret it?" he asked softly. "No," I answered, my voice steady. "I regret waiting so long to speak, but I don't regret finally being heard." He kissed the top of my head. "Then that's enough." The fire crackled, the waves rolled, and for the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I felt whole. I know now that family isn't about bloodlines or last names. It isn't about who shares your table by obligation. Family is built by those who stand beside you when the world turns cold, who see you when others erase you, who love you without conditions. My daughter, my husband, the life I built brick by brick, this is my family. If you've ever felt erased by the very people meant to protect you, I want you to hear me. You are not invisible. Your worth isn't decided by their cruelty. You have the power to walk away, to build something better, to choose love where there was once neglect. And if you're listening to my story now, maybe it's because part of you is searching for permission to let go of the chains that hold you down. This is it. Take it. Be brave enough to cut the ties that strangle you, because on the other side of that pain is freedom, real, shimmering. Freedom you can hold in your hands like seashells at the edge of the ocean. I once whispered to myself as a child, "Be strong, Sophia. One day you'll escape." Now I don't whisper anymore. I speak it aloud, and I live it. This villa, this life, this family, I built it, and no one can take it from me. So tell me, have you ever felt like the outsider in your own family? Share your story in the comments below. And if my journey resonated with you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and join me next time. Because some families don't heal. Sometimes they burn, and from those ashes we rise.